95% of content creators out there don't have any kind of exit strategy, and that's a huge problem. If you're asking your questions when you get the offer, you've missed out on all this opportunity for you to strategically put yourself in a position where you're in control. We want you to be in control, so when you exit the business, it's on your terms. And it all starts with 5 specific steps. I think the first thing to think about when you're even considering an exit strategy is why. Why would you do something like this in the first place? How long do you want to be creating content? What's financially feasible for your family? Having that goal set basically gives you direction. So the first step in the process is setting the goal. When and how much? What are you trying to do? When are you trying to do it? How much do you want to sell that business for? You want to review this goal because everything you do during the day will be affected by knowing what that goal is. The tricky part when it comes to setting a goal is most times it's very audacious because you're going to set a goal that seems very unrealistic. But you got to remember, this takes time. This goal to be executed might be 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years away, depending on what your growth chart is. So the second point of this is actually doing research and finding the candidates that may want to buy your business. What companies out there are actually trying to target the same people you are? When you're thinking about possible candidates, think about the possible niche that you cover that other companies aren't covering. You might have an event or an email newsletter or a podcast that they really want. They don't want to start from scratch, and they can go out and buy yours. So once you have your list of hopefully between 4 and 8 that you think are possible suitors, then you start to reach out to them. If you know somebody that has a relationship with a person you want to contact there, great, do an email introduction. If you don't know them at all, then you use things like Twitter and LinkedIn and connect with them however you can. Once you have their contact information, you just start providing value with them. Send them notes. Say you're in the same industry, that you just saw this article, you just saw this report that they would be interested in. If you get past that level and they show some kind of interest, you might say, hey, we're both targeting the same kind of customer, the same kind of subscriber. Can we work on a project together? And this, in many cases, won't involve money. You're just looking at partnership opportunities to get closer to that decision maker. And it really culminates in, if you can, getting to an in-person event and meeting that person in real life. The biggest mistake that content creators make in this portion of the process is you try to rush it. You don't want them to know that your company's for sale at this point. You're just trying to build a relationship. So in point 4, you're ready to reach out to your 4 to 8 people with what's called a memorandum. And a memorandum is a fancy way to say, what does your company look like? And in that very simple report, it's going to be things like, what does your company do? What's your growth rate? Because what happens is when you reach out, you just gauge their interest. And then you just ask them, are you interested in seeing the memorandum on that? Done. They either say yes or no. If they say yes, then you introduce them to someone, generally your accountant or your financial advisor, that's going to take it the rest of the way, and you're going to stay at arm's length. This is really, really important information. You do not want to work the day-to-day of selling your baby. You want to make sure somebody is in the middle of that process so that you don't have to. So the last step is, of course, closing the sale. And you got to remember here that it's not always about the money. How long do they want you to stay on with the company? Do you want the acquiring company to keep your employees for a certain period of time? When you finally choose that company, you're going to have them create what's called a letter of intent, or an LOI. And this is basically a marriage proposal, if you will. You're not getting married yet. You're only getting to the engagement part, so you haven't done the deal, and you basically set the requirements of moving forward. Whatever you agree to, you only really can count on what you get up front. Because once you hand over the keys to your content creation business and you have a performance-based bonus, you don't have any control over what they do. They could ultimately shut it down if they wish to, and you get none of that bonus. So bottom line is this. If you want to be a content creator and go this direction and exit, you need to be prepared and be proactive instead of reactive. Go through the 5 steps so that when you're ready, it's on your terms and not someone else's.